I bought this workbench about a year ago. I paid $50 for it, including the vise. It isn't well built at all, but it got me by for a while. In this video, I'm going to give it a makeover, strengthen it, add some drawers, and just generally improve it. It's got a decent top on it, but you can see how it's been pieced together and in places really badly too. It's a starting point though, and it's something I can work with. The main reason for doing this now, I bought a milling machine around 6 months ago. Since then, it's sat on the lift in the corner of the workshop, but when the workbench is finished, it'll sit on top of that. I'll start by removing the vise, which I need to restore. It's not too bad, but the screw is a bit sloppy, so I need to find out why that is. Let me know if this is something you'd like to see a video of. Anyway, I need to start pulling some of it apart. The main pieces that need addressing are the back legs, which aren't even square to the bench, and move those into the corners. I'll remove the shelf first and then start attacking the frame with an angle grinder. It looks pretty average at the moment, but there's plenty of steel there, and when it's finished it should be super sturdy and it should look good too. I'm working out and dissecting it where needed as I go. I could have made a new one from scratch, but this will only take me a couple of hours to pull it apart, clean up the joints, and it will be ready to weld back together again. And at the same time, it saves me buying more material. The shelf supports aren't needed, as I'll put a drawer unit in later in the video. I'll keep the pieces though, as they'll come in handy for a project in the future. That's where it needs to go, but first I need to sort the end out, which is a real schmozzle. I have no idea why they made it with all these small pieces when just one long one was all that was needed. I need to remove this leg too, so I'll brace the cross rail while doing that. The rail is too long and is pushing the leg out of square, but it's an easy enough fix to put it right. That's everything that I needed to remove. Now I can clean up all the joints and it will be ready for welding. I'll clean this long rail up on my other workbench, and because I now have this bench is the reason why I can give up some of the space on the one I'm working on for the milling machine. I reckon the end looks much neater now. The top still needs trimming flush, but I'll do that later on. The legs are short at one end now that I've reduced the height of that side piece on the end of the bench. Off camera I cut the legs off and the legs are all too long, so they'll be plenty long enough and I'll trim them all down later on. I'm cutting new rails from this 1-inch square box section and I have plenty of this and that's why I'm using it. I haven't mentioned yet, but I'll be swapping the bench around. What was the back will now be the front. The reason for this is the main cross rail is deeper on what was the front and will take up drawer space. That's the side rails done. Now I'll add long rails across the front and the back. These extra long clamps come in handy every now and again. They're my regular clamps that I made a few years ago. The two ends of the clamp can be removed and installed on a longer bar, and I'll link the build video above if you're interested. Next I'll put some legs in the middle, one front and one at the back, and I'm using pieces of steel that I already have kicking around. These pieces shouldn't get in the way of the drawers when I install them, but I needed to remove one where the back leg goes, so I thought I may as well trim all the rest of them down. I'll put two rails in the middle section. It will add more strength, but also it's for fixing the cabinet sides too. I'm adding a small piece behind the front leg. That's for screwing the side panel to, and the two pieces of plywood are to help me keep the box section centered. Next, I'll trim the legs down. The workbench is going to be much lower than it was. The reason for that is to get the table of the milling machine at a good working height. Now I'll cut and weld the feet onto each leg. This end looks much better than it did, but I'll tidy it up a little bit more. The top isn't the sturdiest, so I'll flip the bench back over and add a couple of supports underneath where the milling machine's going to sit. First I need to remove these pieces that I think were there to support a vise. And again for the support I'm just using what I already have lying around. Now I'll start cleaning it up, ready for some finish. I cleaned the top down several times with Terps. I did a small test with this rust reformer. I really like the finish, so I'm going to go with that. For the frame I'm using hammer finish, and that's to match my welding table. The spray can is left over from when I did the welding table. There isn't enough to do the whole thing, and I couldn't get hold of another can the same. I did find the same product in a regular paint tin, although it was a slightly different shade. I made sure to finish the front and sides with the spray can and did the back and the insides with a regular paint, and that still needs another coat. While the paint's drying, I'll cut some cabinet sides from plywood. I gave them 4 coats of undercoat to try and fill the grain. I only needed to paint 2 of them for the end panels, but I got carried away. While I was doing that, I also undercoated some more plywood, and that's to use for drawer fronts later on. I need to mark and cut several notches in each of the panels to get them to fit. And again, to match my welding table, I'll finish the 2 ends with hammer finish. While that was drying off camera, I added some diagonals for extra stability. I thought about doing this originally, but decided it would be fine. And then while posting a progress photo on Instagram, I got a comment saying I should add some. That made me rethink it, and I'm happy that I did, and it's now super sturdy. The screws I'm using are self-drilling metal screws, but I'm finding it easier to pre-drill them first. Here I'm finishing the final touches, and then I'll make some quick and easy drawers. For those I'm using 12mm plywood, and they'll just be glued and nailed. That's all the side pieces cut. Now I'll cut the bottoms, and for that I'm using 9mm plywood, as I already have plenty of it. Before I put the drawers in, I'll get the bench into position where it's going to live and lift the milling machine on top of it and fix it in position. I'll mark and drill the holes first that will be used to fix the mill down. I wasn't confident at all to do this on my own. It weighs around 400 kilograms and I don't want it to end up on the floor. So I asked my mate Luke to give me a hand. He has far more experience with this kind of thing than I do. Because the lift doesn't go underneath or around the bench, the best we can do is get it onto the corner. So here goes, wish us luck. We got all 4 feet onto the bench, one of them only so much, but enough, and then it was surprisingly easy to slide it into position. And by the way, Luke is a very talented maker too. He's not on YouTube, but check out his Instagram and give him a follow. You won't be disappointed. The milling machine still needs setting up before I can use it, and hopefully I can get to that soon. Well, with Luke's help, it went very smoothly. Now I can fit the drawers. Next, I'll cut the drawer fronts from the plywood that I undercoated earlier on. I'm spraying them with hammer finish again to match the welding table. I cut these pieces at 30mm angle to length off camera, and these will be the drawer handles. I set up a temporary fence on the drill press with markings for where to drill holes to fix the handles, and if I already had the milling machine set up, I could have used that. To countersink the holes, I'm using a drill bit one size larger than the heads of the screws that I'm using to fix the handles. That was a really good job done, and it's great to see the milling machine on a stand. I can't wait to use it. The bench is super sturdy, it's got plenty of drawer space for tooling, and I reckon it's a big improvement from what it was. It wasn't the most exciting project, but hopefully you enjoyed it anyway and you found something useful from it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.